class was right after college. Did about 6 months of training. Took a little bit of a break. Some of my work started to conflict a little bit. Training schedule and work schedule just wasn't matching up. Took a little bit of a break, got married, bought a house. Decided I really missed having that in my life. Decided to go back, and went back probably 6 or 7 years ago, and have been training pretty much full time since then.
So in your late 20s?
Yeah, late 20s.
Like 25, 26, something like that?
That sounds about right.
Cool. What about you, Natalie? I'm just interested because I asked this question to people because a lot of athletes start very, very early in this sport, and they have all this experience in all these fights, and then they retire early. My idea is it's about time in. It doesn't matter when you start; you're still going to have the same amount of time. What about you, Natalie? When did you start?
I started when I was 23. So yeah, I guess respectively, I was much older.
Yeah.
I think when I went to Thailand, I was 29 and everyone thought I was old. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, everyone looks young in Thailand anyways.
Yeah, they start young and they retire young. So they were so young. They're like 21, 22,
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
You know what, though? Women of the sport are peaking at a lot later ages. I mean, look at Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields. While some of the boxers like Shields did start early and in her teen years, some fighters aren't starting until their late 20s, but women, it seems, are peaking at a little bit later age, which is one good thing for all us ladies out there still competing.
Makes me feel better.
Guys, I'm wondering if, pardon?
I said it makes me feel better about it.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm 32 and I'm still competing. So I'm never hanging up the gloves, never giving up. I love it way too much. I want to know the stories behind each of your ring names. Melissa, I know I seen a little thing on Facebook from your coach who has all these rules before you get a ring name. So why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about that and how you got your ring name, and then Natalie, you shoot us off into how you got the name Killface.
All right, so mine's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. Coach always he wanted all of us to have somewhere in the realm of 8 to 10 fights before he would give us a nickname. He always said that he didn't want us to be that person making our debut that was like Melissa the knockout artist and like went out and got knocked out in her first fight. So he made us earn our nicknames and earn that respect and the the right, I guess, to have a nickname. The axe came about basically due to my lumberjack background. I don't know that there's really anything other than that's interesting about it. We talk about sharpening our tools and our bodies just being a tool and a weapon. And I think that analogy towards sharpening an axe and always having an axe to grind and knowing, like when you're grinding an axe, you spend a lot of time sharpening, but you also spend a lot of time polishing to make sure that you have the sharpest tool when you go to chop down that tree. So I like to use that analogy as it applies to my training and my Muay Thai skills as well. But that's about as exciting as my nickname gets.
I think it's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool story. Natalie, your story is also pretty cool. I loved it when I first heard it. So why don't you tell all of our viewers and fans out there your story?
So it was early in my career. As she said, you don't get to pick your fight name. So I think we both are lucky that we have very unique and fun fight names, right? Because you could end up with something like the knockout artist and it's like very vague and terrible. So you don't give yourself names. So I was in like my third fight-ish and I was sealing the ring. We get to the center. We're looking at each other. The ref is, I want a good clean fight. If, there's a knockdown, I want you to go neutral corner. Okay, cool. I'm looking at this girl across from me and she just looked like she was leaning in. And I was like, what is can she not hear him because it's so loud? That was my first thought. And then I realized she turned really white and she lost her legs. I've never seen anybody faint in my life until this moment. And she fainted. The ref caught her in his arms. And I was like, what is happening? It was only like, two to the sport. I'm like, I don't know what is happening. And then I was like concerned and upset. And then she was fine. So it was, whatever. So that's my only no contest. You know, people were joking like forever about it. Like, oh man, you're a Jedi, you knocked people out without even touching them. So, so yeah, my coach at the time, he was like, man, I told you to knock her out, Nat, but man, like what happened? That was crazy.
But not before the fight starts.
Yeah, you didn't even get to do the fight. So people were like joking, and then I posted this goofy webinar series called Enter the Dojo, and it's called The Kill Face as a joke. I was like, oh, this must be what I have. And it went insane. People were like, that's what you have. You have the kill face. You knock people out without touching them. So that's like, yeah.
I love it. I think that's such an awesome story. Matt, why don't you shoot off the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, I watched your fight against Candice. She's a fellow countryman. I've trained with her, and yeah, I was excited about that fight, and you did a great job. Both of you ladies did a phenomenal job with that fight. My question was, she's a taller fighter, and you know, her clinch in the past has not been a go-to. How did you find the range, and how did you get over the range and fighting a taller fighter?
Yeah, we worked on so many things that were uncomfortable. And I mean, tall is an understatement. She's 5 inches taller than me.
Yeah.
She's 11. So yeah, it was the tallest person I've ever fought.
It's a fair bit, yeah.
She was very tough. So yeah, I didn't expect to end up in the clinch as much as we did. And I had heard that her clinch was like a little lacking here and there. So I thought it improved. I thought she did really well in the clinch.
Yeah.
For me, you know, we sparred a lot with 6'5", 9-ish people to try and kind of simulate what we thought she was going to do. So my whole thing was to just use my hands to get inside. I was looking for the clinch because, you know, I thought I had heard that hers wasn't that great. But actually, I found that in the fight, it didn't really go exactly as we thought, because I got in the clinch and she was pretty strong. And I was like, oh, man, this is not really where I want to be, to be honest. And so I actually ended up fighting better, I think, personally from the outside. So
you did. You looked really good from the outside. Yeah.
I started throwing a lot of hands. I was like, all right, let's just try and stay out of that clinch.
Yeah, it was. And I think, honestly, in that fight, both of you, either way, I think elbows would have made the difference either way with you guys. And I watched it and I was like, one of you throw an elbow.
And I was trying. I kept trying, but we both had really good control on the biceps. And I was like, man, I can't get anything off.
and taller opponents, it's harder to elbow as well.
Yeah.
And so,
what an experience, though.
Yes, it all comes down to experience, right? You get to put that notch on the belt. Melissa,
and on UFC Fight Pass.
Yes, exactly. Melissa, have you had to deal with a taller opponent, a longer opponent in any of your fights?
No, I'm usually the taller fighter in most of my fights. I think I've had at least one fight where my opponent maybe had like an inch of height or reach advantage on me, but it wasn't enough to be enough of a changing point. I definitely deal with it a lot with my sparring partners, though. I have a couple of men that I spar with that are quite a bit taller than me. So I've experienced the frustration of trying to get inside on a taller opponent that as of yet have not had that experience in a fight situation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, being the taller fighter versus a shorter, I always find when I'm a little bit taller than someone, I have a harder time hitting that body shot. And body shot low kick is a go-to for me. Do you find that you had a harder time with the body shot when you're tall?
I do, yes. And that's not something that I've drilled or gone to in many of my fights previously. It's something that I've been trying to work into sparring a little bit more often. But it is harder to really find that without feeling like you're opening yourself up by getting down there.
Yeah, absolutely. The little tricks of the trade. Punch them right in the sternum. Right back to you, Steph.
So, Melissa, you've had some exciting news, and let all the viewers know how you felt when you landed your first multi-fight contract with Lion Fights. And are you excited or nervous about your debut in August?
Oh, I'm so excited. It's a little surreal. Like, it hasn't quite sunk in yet.
Yeah,
I've always dreamed of being a pro athlete. Definitely never thought that I'd be a pro fighter. So this is a little bit of a surprise for me. Growing up, for a while I was like, oh, I'm going to be a professional figure skater. And then I got really excited about watching bull riding and thought maybe softball was the ticket or timber sports, but here I am as a fighter. But yeah, I was really excited and it was awesome. Got the news on my birthday weekend, so it couldn't have been a better birthday present. Went out of town on a short ski trip and pulled into the hotel. We're getting ready to check in, and I got the text message that's like, hey, we want to offer you a pro contract. Have your people call my people. And I'm like, this is for real? Like, this is amazing. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for August. Lots of hard work ahead of me, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's so amazing. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So each of you have quite a few title belts to your names. So I want you guys to each tell us what your titles that you currently hold are and which title belt you're the most proud of. And we can start with Natalie this time.
Okay. Do you want amateur and pro or just pro?
Right, when you have so many title belts, you're like, how many do you want me to name?
I just want.
No, I know, girl. I want to hear them all. I'm really excited. I want to hear them all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you know what, as an amateur, there are some really high accolades that some professional athletes will never touch. So they're important, man.
Okay, so I have the IMTF. I have 3 of those that I fought for Dennis Warner in 3 different weight classes. I have a couple small ones from like state local titles in California, IFS, and then there was one that I cannot remember the name of right now. And then I have the Atomweight IKF world title. And as a professional, I have the WBC Featherweight national title. That's the one I'm most proud of. When I started Muay Thai and I really got into it, I always said all the time, I want that green belt. And I didn't care if it was amateur or pro. I said, I want that green belt. And so I'm the most proud of that.
That's awesome. Melissa, you shoot off to us your title belts and the one that you're the most proud of.
All right. So hopefully I'll remember all these correctly. So obviously they're all amateur. I fought at the Gear Tournament of Champions out in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. I believe I have 2 from that tournament. I think 2017 was the first, and then I went back out again in 2019. Then also have 2 from the World Thai Boxing World Classic that's also held in Des Moines, Iowa. I believe 2018 and 2019 on those. Probably the one that I'm most proud of was the last Gear tournament. Definitely went up against the hardest opponent that I've had to date. Definitely a much stronger, like physically intimidating type of opponent. But I was able to hang with her, and my cardio was strong enough that I was able to move around and pull off the win. But I think that was definitely like my biggest test to date. So definitely I'm most proud of that belt and that fight so far.
Those are some amazing accomplishments between the 2 of you. Matt, you can shoot off the next question.
Melissa, how would you categorize your style? I mean, some people like to walk others down and be very pushy in the face. Some people like to stay on the outside. How do you view yourself and your style?
I think it changes depending on the situation. Like a lot of times when I'm sparring, I find myself trying to stay more on the outside and trying to be more of a counter striker. But looking back at some of my fights, it's definitely not how I fought. I've definitely been more of an aggressive fighter, been one to try to push the pace with some of my fights, especially, and try to stay in striking range as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, every time we all have a game plan until we get punched in the face, right? Natalie, what about you? How would you categorize your style and how people would view you? If your opponent was to be like, "Oh, this is how they fight," what would you say?
Aggressive pressure fighter. Yeah.
The best kind.
I don't think I could be anything other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's funny because like you said, you spar and train a certain way, and then when you get in the ring, all of a sudden you're doing something sometimes that you didn't train at all, and you have to capitalize on winging it, right?
I've done things in fights that I've never done in sparring. I'm like, where did that come from? I don't even know.
Yeah, I've actually in sparring I try all this stuff, and then when I get into the fight, I'm blue collar meat and potato, right? Little spinning, just I kick that leg, punch, kick, you know. So it can go either way, right?
Yeah.
Steph would like to do.
Natalie, you've also fought MMA. Of the two sports, Muay Thai and MMA, where does your heart lie?
Yeah, Muay Thai forever. No more MMA ever again. No offense.
No more MMA ever?
No, not for me. I gave it a whole good year. I was like, I want to not say when I'm old that I didn't try it. So I wanted to try it. I had 2 fights. I won one, I lost one, but both of them I didn't really enjoy. So,
but it's a good way to figure out what you really love. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it really made me miss Muay Thai, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, now I miss Muay Thai even more. What's happening?
I know. I think we can all relate to that. We've all had our hurdles from amateur fighters to professional fighters trying to figure out ways that we can continue to train and continue to improve our skill set. But around the world, we're all doing what we can. I mean, we all got that fighting spirit. So that's one great thing. So Matt, Natalie, Melissa, all 3 of you guys love Muay Thai. So tell me a little bit about these Muay Thai rituals, the blessing of the ring and the Y-Crew dance. Whoever wants to go first.
So,
Emily, do you do the Y-Crew when you fight?
I don't.
No.
Don't. I've done it once. I did a small version once. I was always so much more nervous to do that. I'm not very good with dancing and stuff. So I actually have more anxiety about that. So I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I would just skip it. I would seal the ring and I would skip it. But I did do it one time.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page there. I had to do it once for one of like our assistant instructorship tests that we had through the gym that I train at. In front of all of my training partners, and my sense of coordination and rhythm is not the greatest when it comes to dance. So I was definitely the most nervous about that. Like the whole time I'm like worried about the Y-Crew, and I know my instructor is going to like kick me and punch me during the rounds coming up, but I wasn't worried about that. It was all the dance. But I definitely have a lot of respect for the people that are able to do a very beautiful rendition of it. I don't feel like I do it justice. But sealing the ring for me is one of the most calming parts before a fight. It's just being able to get in, clear my mind, and just like complete that transformation into a fighter. That's when it really becomes real for me.
For the viewers or anyone that's watching, sealing the ring is to seal the rings from all outside interference. In Thailand, there's a lot of betting, and it can be swayed. The fight can be swayed due to that betting. The Y-Crew Muay is to pay homage to your instructors, your coaches, your crews, and it's very special to the coaches, and it brings a tear to some of their eyes. I myself used to struggle with it. I was like, I just want to fight, just let me go. And until I've done it boatloads of time, and my instructor loves it. I do it. I warm up with it. It's great. Actually, I was fighting one of Phil Nurse's studs there in my pro debut in Barbados, and I was doing the Y-Crew, and I think I stumbled a little bit, and then Phil Nurse was like, look, he's nervous. See, he's nervous. And I was doing the Y-Crew, like, no, I'm not. I just suck at this.
Well, it's okay that dancing is your secondary skill to fighting, guys. Hey, I think that's okay.
Yeah. But one of the biggest things that used to get me was jumping over the ropes. I was always most afraid of falling.
Yeah, I think we all have that anxiety for that. I've always had I'm like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that comes to my next question, Natalie. I was just gonna ask, what is your biggest hang up to both fighting?
Oh, biggest hang up. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough question. I love everything about it.
It's a love-hate, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know, Melissa. You want to go? And I'm gonna
Guys,
I
was talking to Freddie Cameo today, actually, in my interview, and he said even he still gets nervous, like to this day, for his bouts. So, like, you know, fighting is not for the light at heart, for sure. It takes so much courage just to step in the ring. So I respect anyone who steps in the ring. The adrenaline ditch, how your mind is racing, your heart is pounding. There's thousands of people sometimes. And even if there's hundreds, it feels like there's thousands of people watching. So I suggest for anyone who doesn't know what it feels like, in order to get the respect for those who step in the ring, to one day jump in there and try it. But Melissa, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough one, but I think for me, I have the most anxiety about the touch of gloves at the beginning of round one, because I don't know what my opponent is thinking or what she's going to do when she comes out of that ring. And it's always like, are we going to touch gloves? Is she going to throw a haymaker? Is she going to chop down my leg? Like, what is this first, like, interaction going to be like? And then after that's over, I fight. Like, I don't think about it anymore, but like leading up to it, that's always the one thing that.
I thought of one. I think for me, my biggest hang up, I do not like cutting weight. That's definitely my biggest hang up. Biggest hang up.
I don't think you're alone there.
Smash my scale when I'm done fighting and do the gene test for like.
That's it. Never step on a scale ever again.
Never again.
Never wait.
No more rabbit food for me.
Yeah.
For sure. Matt, did you want to shoot off?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It comes hand in hand. Fighting is normal as we treat it. It's really not like we're always gonna have this little bit of anxiety. I don't feel it when I fight. I actually feel it when I ref and when I coach more now than fighting. When I go out there, I just feel like I belong. But that came with tons and tons of experience. And my coach used to tell me, don't touch gloves, until I kind of found out that universal sign of you throw your hand up first. We're like, are we touching gloves? Like, if not, I'm just coming out. So fighting has all these things, but it's so beautiful. What is the largest event or arena or platform that you fought on? Melissa, let's go with you first.
Ooh. Most of my fights have been more at the tournament level, where the majority of the spectators were other coaches and other participants. I think my fight in Boston last January for No Boundaries was a pretty big platform and a decent sized crowd. It was probably one of the first where I actually went into the crowd and looked around before my fight. Normally I try to put the blinders on and I just try to focus on the fight, and I don't absorb as much of what's going on around me. But that was one of the first fights where I felt a little more comfortable in there and was able to like actually absorb the whole experience a little bit more. So that one definitely sticks out to me as being like a larger platform.
Natalie, what would you say your? I know you just came off this lion fight, but
UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah, lion fight for sure. There was a couple other when I was just turning pro that I think are pretty big stage. I did a one-off for Glory in Los Angeles and Long Beach. That was awesome. That wasn't my best fight, but it was fun. And then maybe World Muay Thai Angels. That was when I went and did my pro debut. And I just think for me, that one was like, I had a lot of international opponents. There were 16 different women from different countries. So I think that was probably one of the coolest because I got to fight really high level girls, even though I had just turned pro. Honestly, I probably shouldn't have been fighting those girls just yet, but you know, it was awesome. And I got a lot better from doing it. So I'd have to say that one.
Sink or swim, baby.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk a little bit about Lion Fight 64. What a great card that was. There was a lot of highlights to that card. Stephen Walker's tornado kick being one of them. So I just want you guys to share what your favorite fight of the night was. And whoever wants to start can jump right in.
Mine was definitely Joe Stripling versus Terrence Hodges, for sure. Like, hands down, that elbow clinic that Joe put on. For me, there's no question of what my favorite fight was. It's just very insane to watch and very entertaining. And yeah, I mean, I loved it.
Yeah,
that was a great fight.
Yeah, my answer is definitely the same. That fight, I don't even know how they kept that pace the entire fight. I was like, it's crazy. I mean, the Stephen Walker knockout was crazy, but that entire fight, I was just like sitting there glued to my computer screen. Even my mom was watching. She was like, "What is going on?"
I absolutely agree with both of you. It was, before having him on the show, I never really heard of Joe or saw him. And then I looked up and I was like, wow, this guy's got pretty good cardio for a big guy. Yeah. And then the way he, from start to finish, didn't get tired, elbows, just going for it. I was really impressed. What did you guys think about the call on the 12-6? That they thought they were coming down, and his opponent was like, "What are you doing? This is illegal." Did you guys think that was illegal, or Buddy was tired? Melissa?
I mean, I don't think it was illegal.
No, it absolutely
was definitely the axe elbow. I don't know. I guess when you're in there, I would imagine from his point of view, and you're tired and you're getting hit with things that you aren't seeing. Maybe you do reach out, or you think that maybe it's different than what it is. But seeing it from the outside, I mean, no way was it illegal 12-6.
Natalie, what did you think?
I agree, but I'm not sure if it might be legal in that state because it's a state by state thing. When I just found my thing, they said, I was like, 12-6 is legal or illegal? Like, oh, it's illegal. It's legal. So I could have thrown it. Yeah. So, was it illegal in Kansas or was it legal?
You can axe elbow, and that's what he did. It wasn't a 12-6 over top, right? So my biggest problem with that is when he was complaining to the ref, that referee should have started counting.
Yeah.
You don't talk to the referee. You don't say that's illegal. That's what your corner's for. If when it comes to experience as a ref and as a fighter, you don't speak to the ref ever. You shouldn't say anything to the ref. And if I was the ref, I would have counted that right away.
Yeah.
Stephanie, back to you.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Joe Stripling, when Joe was on the show, I had a little argument with him. So I don't know if either of you guys seen his knockout by cartwheel kick, but it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So I was talking to him before the show, and I was like, Joe, that's the coolest kick I've ever seen anyone knock someone out with. And he's like, nah, there's cooler kicks. And we talked about the spinning back kick, and we were going back and forth between the spinning back kick and the cartwheel kick. What kick is cooler? And then the tornado kick, of course, made its way in there with Stephen Walker's knockout. So I want you guys to try and settle the score, and each of you guys vote which one you think is the most difficult to land, and also the most exciting, I guess. Exciting to see. Tornado? Matt, you go first.
You know what? I don't throw a lot of spinning stuff. I'm not a fan of the Sanchez kick. One, because your hands aren't supposed to touch the canvas. It's a rule. A lot of states and provinces don't. When it's done, especially by a heavier set person, I'm thoroughly impressed. I would have to say, definitely for me, a question mark kick. And that's only because I've only ever been snuck and hit with them. When it looks like it's coming to the body and then they come up and kick you in the face, I find it impressive because it's a very sneaky. I always check them and end up with a little bit of shin on my face. So I'll go question mark there. Melissa, what about you?
I think you're going to have to go with the cartwheel kick. cartwheels weren't even in my repertoire as a child. So to even think about attempting one in a fight just blows my mind. I think I tried one time and landed funny on my back, and I was like, oh, that's it for me. So yeah, I mean, I think it would take me a while to work up to something like that. I think even Joe snuck one in towards the end of his last fight. So seeing him do that, I mean, it was very impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
Natalie,
and Natalie, how about you?
I think the tornado kick. I did grow up doing cartwheels as a kid, so I've never actually tried one. I'm not a big fan, but I don't think it would be that hard to land. I've tried spinning back kick and I've gotten that to land, but I've never tried a tornado kick thing where like you do multiple spins. I feel like that would be really difficult and I'd be dizzy by the time I got there. So I don't know. I'm going with that one. I think it'd be the hardest.
All pretty cool, pretty spectacular moves. And I'm super excited for you guys to have your next bouts. You both have contracts with Lime Fight, so you both definitely have some more bouts coming up. I'm wondering if you guys have any news you can break on the show tonight about when your next upcoming bouts are and who they might be against.
The only thing I know,
Natalie, you go first. Sorry, go ahead.
I can't really say much, but it's going to be a very exciting fight. I know that. And I believe Melissa and I will be on the same card. So that's what now I'm on the East Coast. So, you know, I'm on this side of the world for now. So it looks like August. It's going to be really exciting. I can't announce who yet.
That's okay. You gave us a little bit of something to go on, Natalie. So we're happy with that. And Melissa, how about you? Do you have an opponent in mind yet?
Not that I know of yet. Just training and looking ahead to August. But no opponent that I know of.
Well, I'm really excited, and I hope you both do get on the same bout because that would be awesome, and we'd love to have you guys on the show again after you both win and talk about your spectacular performances. So that'd be super exciting. Matt, why don't you go?
Natalie, you had mentioned that you were on Glory, and this was one of my questions. I love when someone asks the question for me. You were on Glory now, and you've had MMA fights. Doing kickboxing and transitioning from kickboxing to Muay Thai, is there a preference? Is there one you love more? Or are you like, oh, I won't do kickboxing anymore? Or have you been able to bring something back to the Art of 8 from kickboxing?
Oh, I definitely prefer Muay Thai even over kickboxing. But that's not to say that I didn't enjoy that one. I did enjoy it. So if I were to, you know, later on maybe do a kickboxing fight, I wouldn't be opposed. I think the thing for me that was tough was to not clinch. That was tough. Not clinching kickboxing. But then I think it also helped me in the fact that I knew that I had one good shot in the clinch and then I had to get out. So it made me like think about get in there right now. So I'm always trying to be the first person to land something in the clinch, like a knee or an elbow. I missed my
giving that ability to enter and exit quickly it levels you up. Melissa, what about you? Have you done any kickboxing, or would you like to? Or are you opposed, not opposed?
I'm not opposed. I've never. All my fights have been Muay Thai rules, but I'm not opposed to kickboxing rules. I think that I probably would miss the ability to clinch if it were not there, at least in the way that it is for Muay Thai. But it's not something that I'm opposed to.
Nice. I found that transitioning here in Ontario, Muay Thai was illegal for so long, and I had to kickbox. And I like to ask this question to people because a lot of Muay Thai fighters are enthusiasts. So then, or only Muay Thai, you know, and I get that because I love Muay Thai. But being able to fight kickboxing and transitioning back and forth, kickboxing is a totally complete different cardio. It's like the output is insane. And I found when I would go after kickboxing fights and then go to a Muay Thai fight, my output was on fire. And I didn't even feel the need to clinch. And it was definitely benefited my Muay Thai career. And I like to ask that question to to fighters just to see, you know, if we're on the same page. Steph?
So for a long time, as both of you know, women's combative sports has sort of been in the shadows. But with the recent popularization of combat sports with fighters like Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, the sport has really had a spotlight. So it's great that there's a lot more financial support going into females. There's a lot more opportunities. Who for each of you is someone who stands out in mind, who is sort of changing the game for women? And that could be a Muay Thai fighter or any combative sport. Natalie, why don't you go?
Any combative sport, I think that
Sure.
Personally, I thought Ronda Rousey changed the game for everyone, because before that, Dana White said no women, and then he changed his mind. And then once women were in the forefront, now it's become a little bit larger. I mean, it helped Muay Thai. Like, you know, I've been doing Muay Thai since before women were in UFC, and there is a big difference. Like, there were 0 women, and now, you know, you walk into a gym and you see a lot more women than you used to, and you know, a lot more women are fighting. We're getting better opportunities. They're headlining cards, things like that. So I think that that was probably the #1 biggest milestone, I think, in my mind.
Yes, I agree. And it's really refreshing to see. It feels like about time, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And Melissa, how about for you? Someone who inspires you?
Ooh. So for me, honestly, I didn't even start watching UFC until a couple years ago. Some of the personalities that were portrayed for women's combat sports, I couldn't quite connect with. And I don't want to take anything away from them as athletes. And I understand that when you are one of the first to do anything, you have to have thick skin and be prepared to get pushed around and pushed back. And sometimes your personality might come on a little bit stronger than what you anticipate it being or what you like it to be. So I understand maybe why some of those things or athletes were portrayed the way they were. But for me, it was a little harder to connect with them until Holly Holm came on the scene. And she's just had a little bit of a different personality about her and a little bit more of like a quiet humbleness. And since then, seeing Rose Namajunas move to the top and the quiet personality that she has, I just connect a lot more with them. And that's a point where I started to be able to see myself becoming a fighter. And maybe that I could be like them, where before, not that, I mean, I definitely can, I'm willing to fight and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do the things I want to do. It's just not the lifestyle I necessarily wanted to live. So seeing some of those other more quiet, humble fighters that are working hard in the gym and they're able to prove themselves through the skills more so than the things that they say, definitely made a bigger impact on me.
Definitely either way, we all have to be grateful for anyone who helps make it easier for all of us. And I think the more women that we inspire to get into the sport, start at a younger age, it's only going to advance women's combat sports. And at the end of the day, we're all here to help one another up and improve the sport for everyone. So I think it's great now that it is becoming so popularized. Just in case we run out of time, I want to make sure that both of you guys get a chance to thank whoever it is that you need to thank, whether it be your sponsors, your coaches, etc. So why don't you guys each take a turn and thank your sponsors and your coaches first.
Melissa, you can go.
All right, so I hope I don't forget anybody. But I definitely want to thank my coach, Ryan Gruen and Elise Pone out of CPA MMA. As well as my strength and conditioning coach, Matt, with RT Plus. Definitely have to thank my chiropractor. Thank goodness I have a chiropractor as a sister-in-law, and so it's been an amazing blessing.
Yes, I can imagine.
Help keep me put together. And honestly, I can't thank those 4 people enough, as well as my boss. Actually switched jobs a couple years ago so that I could have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule to be able to train more seriously. And without his support and the flexibility with my work schedule, like I wouldn't even be here. So, I mean, he's definitely top of the list too. As well as my friends, my training partners, my spouse, like their continuous support means the world to me.
Awesome. And how about you, Natalie?
Definitely my coaches at the Yard, my team at the Yard. Even though I moved to Philadelphia, I'm actually still going to be training with them for fights. And I'm going to give a new shout out to my friends here in Philly who will be part-time helping me out while I'm in the off season, so to speak. So let's say Kate Allen at 8 Limbs Muay Thai and my friend Lisa Lynn over at Burning Spirits. My husband for sure. They deal with a lot of crazy nonsense about the crazy diets and the early bedtimes and the early mornings, all that. So yeah, without that, it would be impossible. My friends, family, fans, Lion Fight for sure. You know, I'm really excited, you know, to be fighting again and to be fighting for one of America's, you know, largest promotions. I think that's it. All my sponsors are amazing. Resilient has been helping me out, Building Active, Impact Mouth Guards, keeping my teeth pretty, you know. I got to keep my pearly whites. But yeah, I think that's it.
And if a potential sponsor is to watch tonight's show and likes either one of your stories or would like to support you guys, because I think supporting women's combative sport is very important, how would they get a hold of you or a fan if they wanted to chat or see when your next fight is? How can they get in touch with you guys?
So they can look me up at melissatheaxe.com, and that links to all of my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter, which are also conveniently Melissa the Axe, and they can find me there.
How about you, Natalie?
Same, ladykillface.com. Everything is there as well, and all my handles are at ladykillface. So, yeah.
Awesome. Matt, do you have a closing question for these ladies?
Yeah, with you guys speaking and talking about the rise of female in combat sports, I'm an instructor. I teach and I give back to the community and the children. If there's one thing that you could tell a little girl or someone that is looking to get into Muay Thai, wanting to start, what roads or what advice would you give them to guide them into the right direction? Natalie, let's go with you first.
I feel like it could be very intimidating for women in general, especially young women. My advice would to just be try not to be too intimidated and just go for it. If it's something that you want to do, you really should just try it. Just try it.
Yeah. Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the same. I think having some female role models to look up to see that it is possible. I think that's one of the harder things. So, I mean, most of my life I've been one of the few females, whether it's been, I went to school for landscape contracting. I still work landscape contracting. One of 2 females in the office and really in that landscape program. Timber sports is obviously male dominated as well as martial arts. But I think having a few females to look up to see that it is possible, and it's a lot easier to imagine yourself doing something and continuing through something when you're able to watch somebody else do it. And the rest of us are doing it. So there's no reason that somebody younger than us can't look up to us and follow in our footsteps.
That's amazing. Steph?
Guys, we really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy training schedules. We're going to be glued to the screen in anticipation of the announcement of your next fights, and me and Matt will definitely be tuning in. We'll be reviewing your fights, and we'll be following your careers. You're finding athletes and great examples and great role models for kickboxing. Amateur kickboxers looking to come up professional. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. The H.E.R. Network is a part of the Spanglish World Network. Check us out at spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish, watch it, hear it, read it, load it, live it. Thanks so much again. We Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.